Hello again, and during this video we're going to learn how to program this microcontroller. Now the microcontroller that I'm going to be using during this video is the PICAX 08M2 Plus. Now my microcontroller is already connected to a PCB circuit. You could find these circuits on the PICAX website. Now to program a microcontroller, I'm going to need an external power supply. So let's connect 3 AAA batteries. Now I have connected my 3 AA batteries. Now let's start programming a program for this microcontroller. Now to program your microcontroller, you're going to need this USB to jack plug cable. So now let's connect this jack plug pin to the stereo jack socket right here, which is on our microcontroller circuit. And let's go ahead and attach these two together. Now let's connect the USB connector to our laptop or other personal computer. Now make sure to connect your USB connector to the port you first installed your cable to. Otherwise, the program will not recognize the cable. Now we have everything connected. Now let's start by creating the program for the microcontroller. Now for our first program, I'm going to be recreating this flowchart into the PICAX program. So let's launch the PICAX software and let's start creating our program. Let's launch the app. Alright, now let's start by setting up a few things. Now in the Workspace Explorer, in the Settings section, where there is written PICAX type, make sure that you have the PICAX 08M2 selected. In the COM port section, you're going to select the common port where your USB was inserted. You could easily click on Refresh COM ports if you have your cable installed. If you don't have your cable installed, then the software will not recognize your cable. So there you go. I clicked on Refresh COM ports and the cable appeared. And I have my cable attached on COM 3. Now in the simulation section, I have a diagram of the microcontroller IC 08M2. And here we could see the labeling of each pin. Now in my present circuit, each pin is connected to a particular component, which could be used as an input or an output. Now at this stage, we must tell our program which pin is going to be used as an input and which pin is going to be used as an output. So at this setup stage, let's set up the pins. And to set up our pins, we must first click on the Home tab and then on New Flowchart. Now here we have the list of pins, and as you can see, the I stands for input and the O symbol stands for output. So let's see which pins are going to be the inputs and outputs. Now I'm going to be referring to this table to see which component each pin is connected to. Now in my circuit, pin CO is connected to a red LED, therefore it is an output. C1 has a function of an input and it's connected to an LDR. C2 is connected to a buzzer, therefore it's an output. C3 is connected to a push-to-make switch, therefore it's an input. C4 is connected to another red LED. It's labeled as red LED number 2. Therefore, it's an output. Now let's set up the pins. So CO is an output by default, C1 is an input, C2 is an output, C3 is an input by default, C4 is an output, and C5 is an input. Now if you forget which symbol is the output and input, here you have them up here. Now let's click on OK. And now we have our pins set up. Now in the flowchart workspace, we have the start symbol, where the program is going to start, already laid out for us. Now let's start by designing our program. Now this is the flowchart that we're going to be recreating. And underneath start, we have a decision. So here we have the commands, the different commands that you could use. Underneath here, you have some other commands all grouped together. You have common commands, variable commands, procedures, and sound output commands. Let's go back to common and click and drag a decision. So let's click and drag a decision command. Now let's click on the decision command. Now in this decision command, we're going to be checking whether one pin is on or off. So let's refer back to our flowchart. Now according to this flowchart, when switch is on, the yellow lights will turn on. When switch is off, yellow lights will turn off, and then the loop will repeat. Now in my circuit, I don't have yellow lights or yellow LEDs. Instead, I have red LEDs, so I'm going to be substituting these yellow lights with red LEDs. Now let's see which pin is connected to the switch. And according to this table right here, pin C3 is connected to the push to make switch. So let's go back to the program and make sure to assign the decision command to pin C3. So here the decision is going to be when C3 is on, something's going to happen. So here 1 means on and 0 means off. So let's change this to 1. C3 is 1. Now let's change the label of the decision command. Now to change the label, you have to tick edit, then you're going to change the cell label. So instead of decision, you're going to write down this question: is switch on? Then click on OK. Now when switch is on, an output is going to happen. The LEDs are going to turn on. So let's click and drag on an output command now. You could also click and drag one of these right here, the high and low output commands, but let's stick on output for now, the regular output command. So click and drag on outputs. Let's put 1 on the right and 1 underneath. So the one underneath is going to be what happens if the switch is actually on. Now according to my flowchart, when the switch is on, the yellow light turns on. In my case, I have a red LED. Now let's edit the output command. And according to my table, pin CO is connected to the red LED. So let's assign the output command to pin CO. So as we've seen on the flowchart, pin CO is going to turn on whenever the switch is on, so let's set it to on, and now let's change the cell label. Once again, make sure that edit is ticked, and then change the cell label to red LED turns on. And then click on OK. Of course, when designing your flowcharts, you can click and drag the commands anywhere where you want to make the commands a bit more further apart. Now let's join the decision command to the other output. So let's click on line to create a flow line which connects the decision to the output command. Now let's edit this output command. So according to our designed flowchart, when switch is off, the yellow light will simply stay off or will turn off. So once again, the red LED is connected to pin CO, so let's change it to off now this time, and let's change the cell label. And let's write down red LED turns off. And then click on OK to affirm everything. Now, of course, if we leave the program like this, the actions will only happen once, so we must create a loop. So, at the end of each output, we must create a loop which brings us back to the start position. Now let's click on line to create our flow lines. Now let's pull a line starting from the outputs, and let's end up back to the start. Then from the Home tab, click Select. And there you have it, our flowchart program is finished. Now let's check it for errors. So click on Check. There you have it, that everything was compiled successfully, no errors were found. And then click on Program to download this program onto your microcontroller. Now as it downloads, notice that a red LED, one of the LEDs, will start to light up. Now it will turn off when the program is finished downloading. Alright, the light has turned off. Therefore, our program is downloaded now onto our microcontroller. Now let's disconnect the jack plug and let's test our circuit. So when the switch is on, the LED should turn on. One of the LEDs should turn on. And there you go. Whenever I keep the push to make switch pressed, so on the on position, the LED would stay on. However, it will turn off again whenever I release the push to make switch. Okay, now let's try something different. Let's change the program. And instead of lighting up this LED, let's light up the one next to it. So back to the program again. And this time, whenever the switch is on, the other LED should turn on. Now the other LED, according to my table, it is connected to pin C4. Pin C4 is connected to red LED number 2. So let's turn on pin C4. Now let's do the same on the other output command. So remove the command on pin CO and then assign an off command to pin C4. Click on OK to affirm everything. And then click on Program. And let's reprogram our microcontroller. Make sure that everything is connected now. Now let's reconnect the jack plug pin to the stereo jack socket. Everything is connected. And now let's click on Program. Now let's wait for the program to be downloaded. Alright, that's finished. Now let's test our circuit. So let's disconnect the jack plug, and now this time when I press the push to make switch, or in this case I have a tactile switch, the other LED should light up this time. And that is indeed what is happening. So stay tuned for the other video, and let's introduce a delay to this circuit.